There's an argument that you're not very good at selling what you're doing. So here's an opportunity. The 10-second television news pitch. Why should people back Labor to get them through this crisis compared with the other mob, given we're months away from election? Just the quick pitch.
Because we've halved inflation while dealing with cost of living pressures, while creating on our watch 1 million jobs. We are making sure that Australians are looked after at what are difficult global economic times.
There's an argument that you're not very good at...
Now, look, I don't speak, economies or whatever he was talking, but can you break it down to me? How have you halved inflation?
He has halved inflation. He's got out the formula and gone, okay, I need to halve inflation, so I'll get rid of bananas, I'll get rid of milk, I'll get rid of fuel. Okay, we're going to do the inflation calculation on a stale loaf of bread and a cheese biscuit. Right. So what he's done is he's reduced his basket that he calculates all this on and gone, yes, we've halved inflation. I am the saviour. Right? The guy is the biggest clown that's ever walked the face. Oh, well, actually, no, that's not right. Chris Bowen's the biggest clown. Albo is very, very close to the biggest clown. Right. He has absolutely no idea how economics works. Nothing. Right? I don't know when the last time he actually went and bought a schooner or a pie or,
filled up petrol.
Filled up with petrol. The Comcar comes with 17 drivers and 14 servants or something. But inflation hasn't halved, right? It has slowly come back a little bit due to market forces or whatever, blah, blah. People are spending less out there. People are literally spending less. So, of course, stuff is going to reduce when people aren't buying it.
Yep. That's right.
Right? Yes, I've saved inflation, but I've fucking stopped everyone spending.
You know what it reminds me of? When they said flatten the curve?
Yeah.
It's like they flattened the economy.
Yeah. 6 days to flatten the curve. Yeah. Give me 6 weeks and I'll fuck the economy. Yeah. Right?
Stephen. Should kill.
And that's what he's done.
Yeah. Be fair, the bloke created 1 million jobs.
Oh, yeah, well, I haven't even got to that point.
What do you mean?
Right. We're 27 million people, but I've created 1 million new jobs. Where? In public service?
90% in public service?
Yeah,
Is that what it was?
99.9% in public service.
Well, it's a good way to win the next election.
No, there were 2 baristas created at my local coffee shop.
Beauty.
Right, yeah. Right. But before that, he sacked 7. Yeah, because there was no one around, during COVID.
So I do want to talk about this inflation thing for a minute because the US is...
You're a numbers guy, by the way, for the people that don't realise. You are a numbers guy. So
yeah, exactly.
Bad numbers. But it's all he gets bad numbers, so I try... The government said what? Yeah, okay, well, that's absolute rubbish. But, so let's talk about inflation for a minute. So... When people say, I was saying this during COVID, when people say, we want cost of living to come down. No, you don't. Do not ask the government to do that. Do not ask your government to bring down the cost of living. Because when the cost of living is really, really low during a recession. Now, don't take my word for this. Go look this up yourself. The Reserve Bank of Australia, the Fed in America, all of the central banks, what did they say they were going to do to deal with this issue? They said they were going to crush demand by increasing interest rates, increasing, pulling money out of the market. That's what they were going to do. They weren't going to increase supply. So, the economists are saying that a recession is overdue in the United States. I don't think we're far behind it. New Zealand's property prices have been sliding. It started to maybe pick back up a bit. Why did New Zealand's prices drop? Because the great Dame Ardern decided that
they all moved to the Gold Coast.
She wanted to cool the property market by restricting international investors. Well, cooling the property market means that your house, which is for most people the biggest investment that they make, is going to not be worth as much as it otherwise would. Wow, what an amazingly great plan former Prime Minister of New Zealand had. So these are the sorts of things that government does. So when you ask them to do something for you, we all know that what you wanted was cheaper groceries, rent prices not to get out of control, mortgage prices not to get out of control. That's what you wanted. The government's going to give that to you in a way that you really don't want, in a way that's going to hurt you the most.
Yeah, I'm from the government. I'm here to help.
Yeah.
Nine most dangerous words from Reagan.
The other thing about this, I'll just talk about immigration for a minute when it comes to inflation. We have a critical housing shortage in this country, okay? that is really good for one group of people, property owners. Anybody who, someone like myself who doesn't have a normal proper job, who, lives off investments and things like that, it's great for us because asset prices go up. But it's terrible for everybody else. And that's the problem. Because a lot of people that invest in our markets, that invest in the United States, even more so, a lot of the profits are being generated by people that don't pay tax here, that they pay tax overseas. So they're actually taking all this profit, and the everyday working person is left behind. And here we are, sitting on the centre-right to further off the right on the political spectrum, talking about how hard it is for the everyday working class person to be able to survive, and the middle class to stay middle class. Wasn't that what the Labor Party was supposed to be about? We're seeing the same trend to the United States. Government is always going to screw it up. The less of them we have, the better.
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
You should be able to take government out, put it in a sack and drown it. That's how small it should be.
Yeah.
Right. And the problem is we don't. Those 1 million jobs, and we're not joking when we're saying they were generated in government.
That's
'Cause
right.
it wasn't generated in private enterprise. Private enterprises have been shedding jobs. Was it the tech companies in this country have been shedding jobs left, right and centre. The mining companies.
Media is getting
Media
smashed. Yeah.
is getting smashed. But they're all getting picked up. Like journos are leaving the major newspapers and then on a Friday and on a Monday joining a minister's office. Right?
Why
It's
would
ridiculous.
you? Why would you anyway? If you wanted to start a business, why would you look at starting it here in the first place? And it breaks my heart to say that I was born in Australia, but why would you? There are so many other options. I mean, just think back at 15 years ago, whatever it was, where we had that many changes to financial regulations that the major options market makers, which I know this is going to sound really complicated, but the people that provide liquidity to the markets left Australia after warning successive governments for years, look, you guys keep changing the regulations. We can't just keep doing this. Just make up your mind and we'll comply with it. Eventually they pulled out. Now, it got so bad that the Singapore Stock Exchange made a play to buy the ASX.
Yeah.
Right? Now, okay, that got blocked. But how embarrassing. Australia should be buying the SGX, not the other way around. And that's what the real consequences are. The real consequences are that Australian businesses suffer. The Australian economy doesn't do as well as it otherwise would. Even when we're booming, we're not doing as well as we otherwise would because of very, very poor management from government.
Well, here's a classic example. My bookkeeper, right? She packed up and moved to Bali. Still does my books. She's no longer doing it here in Australia. But not only that, 4 of her staff turned around to her and said, "Can we come too?" And they all picked up, moved to Bali. Now, she's expanding her business and getting bookkeepers in Sri Lanka and the Philippines at $28,000 a year that are trained here in Australia because they've all come to Australia as students, done accounting, gone back to Sri Lanka, gone back to the Philippines, and they're now doing my books and other businesses' books from the Philippines, from Sri Lanka, from Bali. And it's an Australian business where she's upped and left. And I know advisors that have done the same thing. I know pretty much if you're running an online business from Australia, you've got your head read. You need your head read because you should be doing it from a small island living on the beach somewhere because you can do it.
So I do a lot of data analytics.
Yeah.
And a quick side note, a few years ago, a mutual friend of ours, I was working on something and I said, look, I better create an Excel spreadsheet. I'll do it over the weekend. And he goes, I'll get someone to do it for us. I'll just pay him. I'm like, no, I'm not going to pay someone to do an Excel spreadsheet. What are you talking about? I'll do that. I used to do that when I was in bloody year 8. He rings me the next morning and goes, have you done it? I said, no, I haven't done it because I couldn't be bothered. He goes, oh, well, here, check your email. It was done.
Yeah.
Beautifully done. I said, how much did that cost you? He goes, have a guess. Anyway, it cost him $5.
Yeah.
And that was actually more than he had to pay. He gave them a tip. I was like, okay, I haven't done an Excel spreadsheet since.
No.
Right, for $5, I mean, my time's worth more than that, right? Now, I'm having this conversation a lot with people when I'm doing data analytics or anything else for that matter. If you were to, I'm talking to Americans about this, if you were to employ Americans and you had 3 Americans, average wage 60, 70,000 a year, plus you've got payroll taxes and you've got to account for sick pay, etc., etc. You could have 100 people in Africa, let's say Kenya, The average wage there is $2,500 US a year. So you could have 100 people in Kenya. Maybe they're really inefficient, but I guarantee you they're going to be more efficient than the 3 people that you're employing in the United States. Now, the problem with this is I think we've got a trend, and Donald Trump talks about this a lot, where good jobs are being offshored into other countries because labour is cheaper. It's very difficult for our countries to be able to compete with cheaper labour, but we can compete on other things. But everything that makes our countries attractive, especially if you're international and you're looking for a place to invest, and everybody's international, by the way. If you're sitting here in Australia and you're looking to start a business, you don't have to start it here. There are other options. So, you know, why would you do it here when you've got the complexity of regulations, when you can just go somewhere else and be treated better, have more freedom, and be able to you know, live your own life without too much government regulation?
And really, as a business owner, you should be doing that. You should be weighing up all your options, right? Is Australia better or isn't it, right? COVID actually brought onshoring back. There is some stuff that we should do, and there is some things that we need to have here in Australia. And if we actually did have some of the things back here in Australia, they would be cheaper, purely and simply because there's a whole heap of costs and stuff like that. But it's going to create a situation where Australians need to support Australian-made as well. Like, we lost our car industry not because the cars were crap. We lost it because Australians stopped buying them. They wanted to buy a Mercedes and a BMW and a Jaguar and whatever it was, Bentley. You know.
I haven't said that on air yet, but okay. Right. All right, for the audience, I have a Bentley, but I'm not some rich, like, out of touch person. I don't think I am.
Yeah.
You know.
But you know, we chose to buy overseas.
Yep.
Right. And I choose to employ people overseas. And a lot of the time is because they don't complain and whinge and want Monday off or Tuesday off or all the crap that goes with it.
So